Hey everybody, and welcome to another deep dive. Today we're talking all about improving your English skills.
Yeah, it should be fun.
We've got a whole bunch of research and insights here,
Mm-hmm.
and I think you might be surprised at just how important
Oh, yeah.
English is becoming in
Huge.
pretty much every part of the world.
Absolutely. It's more than just a language.
Yeah.
It's like a global currency.
Really?
Studies show that folks who speak English fluently can actually earn more
Oh, wow.
over their lifetimes, significantly more.
So it's not just about like getting by on vacation anymore.
Nope, not at all. English is like woven into business, education,
Right.
science, research.
Wow.
If you want to be a part of all that,
Yeah.
English is how you do it.
English is the key.
It is.
Okay, so English opens doors, but how do we even find the right door to start with?
Right.
Well, all of our sources point to one crucial first step.
You gotta have goals.
Oh, goals. Okay.
Yeah, personal goals. It's like having a map. Before you go on a trip,
Makes sense.
without a destination in mind, you're just gonna wander around and get lost.
So true. So it's not enough to just say, I want to learn English.
Nope.
We have to get specific.
Absolutely. Think about it.
Yeah.
Are you trying to give a presentation in English?
Ooh, yeah.
Do you want to connect with family members
Uh-huh.
in another language? Or maybe you want to travel the world?
Oh, that's a good one.
Confidently, each goal is gonna have a different path.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Yeah.
I've heard about this SMART goal method.
Yeah,
Does that apply here?
totally. That's the key.
Okay.
Specific, measurable, achievable, relevant, time-bound.
Okay.
It's a game changer.
So instead of just saying, I want to be fluent, I might say, I want to be able to talk about my work for 10 minutes in English in the next 6 months.
There you go.
Something like that.
Now we're talking, that's something you can track,
Uh-huh.
measure, work towards, focused intention.
Makes sense.
Yeah.
And that sense of purpose is motivating. But even with good goals,
Mm-hmm.
people hit a wall sometimes, just getting started.
For sure.
What do our sources recommend for those first steps?
Well, it might sound obvious,
Okay,
but you got to start with the basics.
back to basics. But don't we all want to jump ahead to, like, cool idioms and fancy vocabulary?
Of course. But think of it like building a house.
Okay,
You wouldn't build a house on sand, would you?
that doesn't sound good.
No, you need those early bricks.
Gotcha. Yeah, okay. I see the analogy.
Yeah.
So what are those bricks for English learners?
Well, one source highlighted this Pareto principle,
Okay.
the 80-20 rule.
Oh, yeah.
80% of your results come from just 20% of your effort.
Okay.
In English, that means learning the most frequent words
Yeah?
and grammar.
So we're not memorizing Shakespeare yet.
Not quite. It's about building your everyday vocabulary,
Yes.
words you'll actually use, like go, eat, want, on, in, at.
The simple stuff.
Exactly. And those connecting words that make sentences flow.
I see. So not being afraid to use them, even if you make mistakes, right?
Yes, early fluency is not about perfection.
Right.
It's about getting comfortable with those building blocks.
I like that.
Think of it like learning an instrument.
Okay.
You wouldn't jump into a concerto.
Right. Oh.
You'd start with scales and simple melodies, slowly building your skills and confidence.
That makes a lot of sense. It's about celebrating those small wins early on.
Yeah.
Like being able to order a coffee
Yes.
or understand a news headline.
Exactly.
Those moments build confidence and show that you're actually making progress.
And that momentum can carry you forward.
Yeah, I like that. Okay. But let's be real. Learning a new language can be intimidating.
Absolutely.
One source talked about a fear that many learners face.
Huh.
The fear of making mistakes.
Oh, it's a common hurdle.
It is.
But making mistakes is unavoidable.
True.
In fact, it's vital to the learning process.
Interesting.
Each mistake is a chance to learn and grow.
So true. So instead of looking at mistakes as failures, we can look at them as feedback.
Exactly. Think of it this way. Every time you mess up a word or use a word incorrectly, your brain is taking notes.
It's learning.
It's adjusting. It's refining its understanding.
Wow. Okay, I like that a lot.
Yeah.
So it's not about being perfect from the start. It's about embracing the journey.
We ups and downs.
Yeah, and celebrating the progress along the way.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Awesome.
And one thing that can make a huge difference
Yeah.
is having other people around to support you.
I can see that.
People who encourage you,
Mm-hmm.
people who understand the challenges,
Right.
people who celebrate your wins.
So true. That could be like joining a group
Yeah,
or finding a good tutor.
absolutely.
It's about having that safe space to practice.
To experiment, to learn without judgment.
I love that.
Speaking of practice, our sources had some interesting tips to take your English to that next level.
Okay, like
One that stood out was shadowing.
shadowing, like following someone in a trench coat?
No, no, no. It's about mimicking native speakers.
Gotcha.
You find a recording
Uh,
of a speech, a podcast, anything with good audio.
like this one.
Exactly.
Okay.
And then you try to repeat it, copying everything, the pronunciation, the intonation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
It sounds like a fun way to get those sounds into your memory.
Yeah.
And
Mhm.
speaking of memory, I've heard that spaced repetition is really good for learning vocabulary.
Oh, yeah. It's a game changer. The
Really?
idea is to review words and phrases
Okay.
at longer and longer intervals to
Okay.
really solidify it in your long-term memory.
So instead of cramming before a test,
Right?
we're strategically spacing out practice.
You got it.
Oh, that's interesting. Okay, so this is starting to sound less like studying and more like a fitness plan for English.
It is. Just like with physical fitness,
Yeah.
there are so many ways to approach it.
So many techniques to explore,
Hmm.
and the key is to find what works for you.
Absolutely. What motivates you, what keeps you engaged, what helps you learn effectively.
Yeah.
Those are the questions to ask yourself when you're building your English learning journey.
That's awesome advice. This has been so insightful.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
But I know our listeners probably wondering, what's the takeaway for me?
Oh, that's a great question. Let's recap the key insights from this part of the deep dive.
Okay, so we've got our goals. We're fired up,
Yeah.
ready to tackle the basics.
Hmm.
But it's not just about like hitting the books 24/7, right?
Right. One source compared it to training for a marathon.
Oh, okay.
It's about consistency and variety.
I can see that. Like
Mm.
you wouldn't just do bicep curls every day and expect to be a great runner.
Exactly.
You got to work different muscle groups.
You got to train all 4 skills.
Okay.
Reading, writing, listening, speaking.
So it's not just about memorizing grammar rules.
You know,
you got to actually use the language.
Exactly.
Which ways?
And they all reinforce each other. Like,
Oh.
the more you read,
Yeah,
the better your vocabulary,
right.
which helps your writing.
And so on.
It's all connected.
It's a web.
It is.
Okay, one source had a really interesting idea
Oh, yeah.
for practicing every day.
Okay.
They called it English immersion at home.
Oh, yeah. Immersion.
So even if you don't live in an English-speaking country,
Mm-hmm.
you can still create an immersive environment.
At home, exactly. Like your own little English-speaking world.
So we're talking switching our phones to English,
Yes.
listening to podcasts,
Uh-huh.
maybe even thinking in English.
All of it, don't underestimate entertainment, too.
Oh, yeah.
Watching movies,
Yes.
TV shows with subtitles.
I do that sometimes, but I always use the subtitles.
That's totally normal. Start with them on.
Okay.
And then as you get better,
Mm-hmm.
challenge yourself. Turn them off for a few scenes. See how much you understand.
Okay.
You might surprise yourself.
Yeah, and that feeling of, hey, I got that is so rewarding.
It is.
Keeps you coming back for more.
But let's be honest.
Okay.
Learning a new language, it's intimidating.
Yeah, for sure.
One source talked about the fear of making mistakes.
Oh, yeah, big one.
It's so common.
Mm-hmm.
But here's the thing. Making mistakes
Yeah.
is unavoidable.
True.
It's actually essential to learning.
No, interesting.
Every mistake is an opportunity
Okay.
to learn and grow.
So true. So instead of seeing them as failures,
Right.
we can see them as feedback.
Exactly. Every time you mess up,
Yeah.
your brain is taking notes,
It's learning.
adjusting, refining.
Wow, I never thought of it like that.
Yeah, it's not about being perfect
Yeah.
from day one.
Right.
It's about the journey, the ups and downs, celebrating the progress,
That's a much better way to look at it.
and having a good support system can help.
Support system, like other people?
Yeah, people who encourage you, who understand the challenges, who
Mhm.
celebrate the wins with you.
Oh, yeah, I can see that.
That could be a language exchange group,
Oh,
or a
cool, good.
tutor.
Makes sense.
a safe space to practice and experiment.
Yeah, no judgment. Our sources also had some cool tips to level up your English.
Yeah, one was shadowing.
Shadowing. Is that like following someone around in a trench coat?
Not quite. It's about mimicking native speakers.
Okay.
Find a recording
Oh, okay.
of a speech, podcast, anything with good audio.
Like this one.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And you just try to copy everything.
Okay.
The pronunciation, the intonation.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah.
Sounds fun. Like a good way to get those sounds into your memory.
Mm-hmm.
And speaking of memory, I heard spaced repetition is good for learning vocabulary.
Oh, it's a game changer.
Really?
You review words at longer and longer intervals
Oh.
to help you remember them long term.
So instead of cramming,
Right.
we space it out.
Exactly. There are even apps for that.
Oh, cool. So this is really starting to feel less like studying and more like a fitness plan
That's a great way to put it.
for your English.
There's so many ways to approach it.
So many techniques.
The key is finding what works for you.
Makes sense.
What motivates you, keeps you engaged, helps you learn best.
Yeah.
Those are the questions to ask.
Awesome. This has been incredible.
Oh, good. I'm glad.
I know our listeners probably wondering, what's the takeaway? What do I do now?
That's a great transition.
Yeah.
Let's recap the key insights.
Okay, so we've talked about a lot.
We have.
We started with how valuable English fluency is these days.
Yeah, it can really open doors.
Career, travel, all that.
Connecting with people.
Mm-hmm. And then we talked about setting goals
Right. Smart goals.
to give our learning a direction, a purpose.
They're like our compass.
Yeah, guiding us towards what we want.
Exactly.
And we can't forget about motivation,
Oh, that's key.
finding that drive to keep going.
When things get tough, yeah.
It's about finding what really inspires you,
What gets you excited about learning?
connecting with others, learning new things, challenging yourself.
All of that.
We also talked about mastering the basics,
The foundations.
grammar, vocabulary, pronunciation.
Those are the building blocks.
Yeah, like the foundation of a house.
You need that solid base.
And then we can add all the cool details later.
Exactly. The idioms, the fancy vocabulary.
And we talked about some cool techniques to practice.
Oh, yeah. Lots of different approaches.
Immersion at home, shadowing native speakers, spaced repetition,
It's all about finding what works best for you.
your own personalized plan.
Exactly.
Now, one of our sources had this really interesting question.
Oh, yeah.
I think it's something every English learner should ask themselves.
Okay. What is it?
What goal in your life would be easier if you were more fluent in English?
That's a good one.
Really makes you think.
It does.
Think about it for a second. Is it a dream job? Traveling the world? Connecting with family?
What's that one thing for you?
Hold on to that vision.
That's your fuel.
Your motivation to keep learning.
And remember, you're not alone in this.
There are so many resources out there.
Apps, courses, language partners.
Podcasts like this one.
We'll be diving deeper into all of that in future episodes.
Different learning styles, common challenges, tips from successful learners.
Stay tuned for more.
But for now, think about that personal goal we talked about.
Let it inspire you.
Let it motivate you.
Guide you on your English journey.
The world's waiting to hear your voice.
So keep practicing, keep learning.
And keep diving deep. We'll see you next time.